Hey, welcome everybody back to Noggin Notes Listener Land. We appreciate your followership. We appreciate you downloading our content. It's always super humbling to listen to, sorry, it's super humbling to know that people listen to what I have to say and to the people I interview. And this week's interview is unbelievable. Jessica Harris, who is a licensed professional counselor out of Maryland, shared a lot of knowledge with me, and you'll know that as you listen through this podcast. You'll notice where I make certain notes, and then I gush about how I'm going to steal her insights and, and use them in my own life. But that's really what we're all about. We're about sharing knowledge so that people can go on healing themselves and each other, and ultimately we just want to make this world better. Some of that is done through our sponsors. And that's not an awkward transition. Audible has a ton of audio content that you should access. If you haven't already, establish your Audible account through audibletrial.com/nogginnotes. It helps them out. It helps you out. It helps us out. How does it help you out? Well, you get access to their completely unmatched library of content. audibletrial.com/nogginnotes. You get a free 30-day trial. You get to download something that you want to keep and listen to forever and ever, and you don't even have to give it back if you decide that Audible is not for you. But for 30 days, you get access to everything. audibletrial.com/nogginnotes. And the other sponsor is, of course, the company that I co-own with my co-owner, Lindsay Bell. It's called Zephyr Wellness. Go to zephyrwellness.org. If you want to reach out to us, email us at info@zephyrwellness.org or info@nogginnotes.com, and we will take some of your suggestions and make episodes out of them and or incorporate them into our podcasts. But in the meantime, while you're considering what you want to email us about, please enjoy the following podcast with now my friend and colleague, Jessica Harris. We're talking about a lot of things, and I think you'll enjoy it. Have fun. Well, audience, we're back on Noggin Notes, and with us today is Jessica Harris. Hello, Jessica.
Hi, how are you?
Excellent, thank you. It's the beginning of another wonderful week, and some transparency for the listening audience. If you can't see me, but Jessica can. If you see me shifting in my chair, it's because I got some injections in my back to try to loosen up something that's been plaguing me for a while. So it's not going to make me like fall asleep or drool or anything, but I may be a little uncomfortable. I'm going to let you introduce yourself. You are a clinical professional counselor in the Maryland/Washington, D.C. area. But tell us a little bit more. You got your own practice and stuff?
Yeah, definitely. I started practicing in 2018. A lot of my background is comprised of working with children and adolescents, and then I moved into family work. I worked in community mental health for maybe about 4 to 5 years. I've worked with children on the autism spectrum as well, and some adults there in that area. I've worked with the immigrant community as well. So I still do some work with that in my private practice as well. So I kind of have a little bit of experience, a little all over the place here.
It's good. It's good for us to be well-rounded in our approaches to things and have a depth of knowledge too. I want to definitely get into some of that stuff because I did interview an immigration attorney once a couple of years ago about some of the struggles that immigrants have. So I want to get into that. But first I want to ask you about the work with kids. You said kids and adults, I think, struggling with autism. Tell us a little bit about that, because I think it's an often misunderstood diagnosis and condition. Help the audience get a better handle on what that really is.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started working with children. I think they're about between like 2 to 3 years old, were most of the kids the age range with most of the children that I work with. So it was where I did a lot of like motor skill development, some verbal skills, different things like that. And then with some of the kids who are a little bit older, like in elementary school, like around like 3rd grade 5-ish age, I did like a lot of social skills development, worked on like self-regulation and things like that. So I know it varies differently from different age groups and different levels of functioning as well.
You really have to have a truly individualized approach for anything really, but we want to be careful not to paint with a broad brush. Do you have any sort of loose conclusions that you can draw about what parents should pay attention to that may be on the spectrum versus just normal childhood inattention, rambunctiousness, impatience, that kind of thing?
It has been some time for me since I have worked with that population, but from what I can remember is like, especially, I would say, like pay attention to some of the social skills. If you have like a child who might be in like kindergarten and moving forward, moving upward from there, a lot of behaviors can be interpreted as defiant and oppositional, and that's not really always the case for children in general. So I think that's one of the signs that I've noticed in some of the clients that I've worked with, especially with me suspecting that they may be on the autism spectrum, and giving a recommendation for getting tested. With smaller children, you really want to notice like what their verbal skills are really looking like. So that's one of the signs that I've learned to notice in the population as well. So yeah.
So if there's a parent out there who says, I think my kid may have autism, or we've gotten rid of the other diagnoses from when we moved from the DSM-4 to the DSM-5. So you might hear things like Asperger's disorder, or Rett's disorder. Those are now lumped together in a spectrum. If you're listening and you're unfamiliar with this, so we just collectively call it all, autism spectrum disorder. But what is it? What's a parent do? You mentioned testing, and in Nevada, I know it's very hard to get psychological testing or psychometric testing for that. Is that the first step, or is the first step just to consult with a professional like us who's maybe got a license to do mental health service, but maybe not some of the motor skill stuff you mentioned? Just like start first and see if we get an accurate picture of it.
I would say to look for a professional who specializes in whatever concern that you have, and not this. This is just goes broader than autism spectrum. Because that professional is really going to have a strong background or training in that particular concern. So with autism spectrum, if you are a parent who's just suspecting that your child may be on the spectrum and you're noticing some developmental deficits, you'll want to seek out a psychologist who specializes in autism spectrum disorders and testing for this particular population.
That's great wisdom. I love that you said that. It's irrespective of whatever it is that you're seeking, because I think we encounter that a lot in the substance abuse community, where it's like, I need somebody who specializes in addiction, right? But we don't necessarily look for people who have specialties in other types of disordered behavior. But that is a really good point to make. As much as we think we can do it all, there are those of us among us who do it better than some others, and you want to start with those people. Certainly, access matters. If you're in a rural community and there's one clinician, you probably go to that one clinician and then work up. But I appreciate you pointing that out. How'd you move from maybe explain community mental health too, for those of us who don't know? But how'd you move from community mental health into private practice / owning your own business?
Well, with in working with autism spectrum population, they applied behavioral analysis as a therapy that's specifically used as treatment for that. And so I did want to broaden my experience and do more different types of counseling. So that's how I got into working in it. I was employed with a community agency and did a lot of in-home, in-school, and office-based and community-based therapy sessions with the clients that I had. So.
Is that big out there in the East Coast as far as the in-home and in-school stuff? We're just barely starting to crack it here, but also we rank dead last in behavioral health in the country, so we're last to get a lot of things. Is that a big thing?
I think so. I think it is, and I think it really depends on which agency, like what their business model looks like as well. Not every agency does a lot of home-based work. There are some who do, so I think it really depends. where you're working and, what your ideal population is looking like.
In my experience, the people who really qualify for home-based services are ones who are highly impacted socioeconomic demographic who, transportation's really tough. Maybe they find it difficult just to leave because their, anxiety is so crippling or whatever it may be. But I've found the school-based stuff really useful because you're surrounded by a lot of eyeballs, and you taught school also, and I think it'd be useful to hear from your perspective just how powerful that can be, the in-home or the in-school provision of services. Go ahead and expand on that if you would.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually really, really love school-based work. I wish for professional counselors we would have more access in being able to do that, especially in the United States. I think social work is more of a widely recognized profession. And, a lot of the clinical skills that counselors and social workers do overlap. And so there's more access in that area. So I kind of get jealous of school social workers.
Right.
I know that school-based therapist positions have become more, more popular over time. So I am seeing more of those positions open up, which is a good thing. So I'm really happy that I'm seeing that. But with school-based work, I love it because it makes therapy more accessible for children. I can say, prior to COVID, children spend, significantly more time in school than you do at home during, a work week. And so being able to work with children during that time in a setting that they spend a lot of their time in is really important. And it helps to really normalize a lot of the skills that are being taught in therapy, being able to normalize them to the school setting and being able to further develop their social skills and emotional regulation, things like that.
Is funding an issue? Do they fund you through the school, or do you do insurance? I know you mostly do cash pay, right?
Yes, I do mostly cash pay. There is funding available for it. So there have been different grants that have been different organizations are able to get for providers or organizations that are able to accept Medicaid here in the States. That's really like a great pathway for being able to provide services for underserved populations as well. So
I'm always curious, talking with providers from different regions. Working with Medicaid in Nevada is pretty challenging. It's become less so recently, but I want to know, do you work with the Medicaid in Maryland? And if so, how has it been? If not, why not?
Yeah, definitely. Unfortunately, I'm unable to accept Medicaid because I'm a professional counselor. So the only professionals in the United States who are able to accept Medicaid are physicians, psychologists, and social workers.
That's interesting because we do it here. Like, I'm a marriage and family therapist. We have professional counselors here, and we're all in network with Medicaid. But it's hard to get in network. But it sounds like for you guys, it's not even allowed. That's fascinating to me.
Yeah, I think so. For professional counselors who can bill under Medicaid, they're probably with an organization that can bill Medicaid. And so the onboarding credentialing process with that looks different than for me being in private practice. And because I would have to panel with commercial insurances.
Would you do it if you could?
Yes.
Fascinating. That's, and this is just, I think, another overall testimony to how little we've invested into the mental health field, right? And, how many barriers are there, not just to care, but to professionals who want to provide the care and aren't able to for whatever reason. We got to fix that.
Yeah. Definitely a barrier in that aspect from the provider side.
I saw, I think, on your website that you accept TRICARE. Do you have a military connection at all, or is that just something that you wanted to do?
It's something I wanted to do. I'm listed as an out-of-network provider with them. So, yeah, I have done some work with some military. I've had some clients in the military or family members of military. So that's something I did, wanted to be able to do, and just being able to, reach different people, who need services.
Yeah, that was a hiccup for us too. Here for a while, the panels were just closed for like 4 years, and they're saying, "No, sorry, we've got enough providers." And we look around, and we're like, "Really? Really?